welcome to our part one series of three-part series of notes and blending. So part one is all about top notes. So if you have no idea what that even means, that's okay. That's what you're here for. Or if you've been an expert for a while on blending, maybe you'll learn something new tonight and just get a good refresh. Maybe you'll get some creativity on your own blending. But we're going to just kind of have an overview of what top notes are, what that even means in essential oils. We'll definitely get a background of essential oil basics first, because we have to have that background knowledge before we get into a little bit of the notes and the blending. And then we are also making a fun little recipe at the end. So definitely stay tuned, take all your notes, but then get ready to make our lemon mint body oil at the end. So this class is a little bit different than the past classes that we've been doing, where we were giving quite a few different recipe options based off of a theme. This is going to be a little bit more education based. So this three-part series, so this first part is the top notes. Next month we have middle notes, and in September we have our third part, which is base notes. So all of this is going to be a little bit more education based, and then we're still going to have a recipe to give you some great ideas, but we're going to talk through kind of the single botanical essential oils, so we get into those a little bit more, and so you can get some more ideas about what they are and what you can do with them. All right, so let's get started. So let's get a little refresh on essential oil basics, first of all. And I'm going to start out with showing off the Acacia logo. So I know that's kind of tiny there, but it's right at that top part. Has anybody ever looked? I know they're pretty tiny on the essential oil bottle. You have to kind of get out your reading glasses or microscope a little bit. But those little symbols under our Acacia logo is actually little plant parts that we extract from plants around the world to get our essential oils from. So these essential oils come from those different plant parts, and we're specifically going to focus on a couple of those plant parts because a lot of our top note oils come from the citrus, which I have here. This is our little mandarin oranges. I like to have a little prop or maybe a snack. So, and then we have our leaf oils. So our leaf oils, which I also have, I guess, an example of that too. Our leaf oils are mints a lot of times that really kind of help awaken us and refresh us. And so we'll get into all of that. But so those mainly are the two plant parts that we're focused on for top notes. But we also get plant parts from roots of our plants like vetiver, ginger, turmeric. Those are our root oils. And then we have our floral oils where we get a lot of our flowers, of course. Some of the more popular ones like lavender, geranium, rose, jasmine, some of those luxurious ones as well. So that's our florals. And then we have our wood oils. So that's a lot of our base note ones like cedarwood and sandalwood. And then inside the wood is actually our resin oils. So it's that resin that we actually distill, and we get our frankincense, we get our myrrh, we get our copaiba. So we'll definitely cover those in the other sessions, but our citruses and our mints are really the big focus for top note oils. So how do we distill these essential oils, or how do we get that extract? So the essential oil in citruses are actually found in the rind of the citrus fruit. So a lot of times, or many essential oil citrus that you pick up at the store, is found in the rind of the fruit. So it's actually a byproduct of the juicing industry. So the juicing industry will squeeze out the beautiful juice that you can drink or use in other products. And then the leftover part is the rind that we use. And then the leftover, so with our citruses, we cold press or extract them. So just like nut oils, like olive oils, get cold pressed, that's the same idea. So just the peel or the rind gets cold pressed or expeller pressed. So it just gets squeezed out, just like, the fruit on the inside, but a little bit different um, with the rind. And then we can squeeze that beautiful citrus aroma. So even if you're cutting a lemon open in the kitchen and you get that lemony aroma, that little citrusy aroma, that is the essential oil in the fruit itself. So we extract that out and then it just gets bottled in that little bottle. But sometimes a tiny little bottle, half ounce size, can sometimes be 20, 25 pounds of citrus rind. So it's really, really concentrated after distillation or after extraction. So we do have to be mindful of that. The other part of that is inside these beautiful essential oils that just smell so lovely are hundreds sometimes of chemical constituents. So we're going to get into the chemicals a little bit. I have my chemistry book, I have my textbook. So hopefully you're ready for a little bit of some chemistry and science tonight. We won't get too sciencey on you, hopefully, or we'll break it down to make sense a little bit. But inside the essential oil are those chemical constituents that we get the term aromatherapy from. So the aroma, like the citrus, and then the therapeutic part of aromatherapy is those chemicals actually going to work when we're interacting with them in our body or on our body. And so they are real chemicals that we're interacting with. When we smell an essential oil, for example, I'm just going to take my bergamot, which I also have diffusing in the background, and I'll just waft it under my nose. I'll take a deep breath of that, and it actually is passing the blood-brain barrier and it's bypassing, going through my olfactory system. My brain chemicals are waking up and it's hitting my neurons and then actually getting into my bloodstream that way. So essential oils are closer to a gas than a liquid. So it's really amazing. These tiny, tiny molecules are actually getting into our bloodstream. And when we put it on topically, which we always want to be diluting before we put it on topically, because again, essential oils are so concentrated, we do actually absorb them through our skin, through the dermal layer, a lot of times through the hair follicles of our skin. So the tougher parts, sometimes we hear about people applying a lot of essential oils to your feet. It might be a way for essential oils to last longer because it's actually probably one of the toughest areas of absorption into the body through the feet, unfortunately, because we have such thick skin and there's not a lot of hair follicles on our feet either. So actually through the hair follicles and very thin skin, like our chest area, are the best ways if you really want to absorb some essential oils into your body. So that's a little note for you. But that is all about citrus extraction and then distillation, of course. And then we have our mints, which a lot of times are steam distilled. This is how the majority of essential oils get distilled, is through steam distillation. So I wish I had a cup of tea with me right now. So if you smell that cup of tea, that is almost similar to steam distillation right there, although we're not bottling that portion of it. So it would ideally be the fresh mint leaves if you're distilling peppermint. Usually with tea, it's more dried leaves. But we would take that fresh peppermint leaves and then we put it into a big still, and then the steam and the water starts to make the essential oils evaporate along with the steam. It's held onto the steam molecules, and then it gets cooled down in some separate tubes where the oil is on the bottom, or the water from the steam is on the bottom, and then the essential oil, the peppermint essential oil, is floating right on top, and we can just easily extract it from there. And that's how we get a lot of our the majority of our essential oils, actually. So a lot of our mints for our top notes. So that is all about the chemistry of essential oils. That's why we call it aromatherapy, because it really is on a therapeutic level. Now, especially being a company, and according to classifications, we can't necessarily make claims, but there is a lot of science and research behind what essential oils can do. So I definitely encourage you, if you do want to dig into that a little bit more of the true therapeutics, because we can talk more about, especially the feelings that essential oils give us. So a lot of our citruses really help to uplift our mood. Our mints are really invigorating and clearing and energizing. But there's so many other benefits that have been researched. And I really recommend a couple, and I will definitely I'm going to read an excerpt from one of these books, but one of the big books that I do recommend is Essential Oil Safety, and this is from Robert Tisserand. And so you can actually go on to Tisserand Institute. You can follow Robert Tisserand on Facebook and Instagram as well. And he has actually a lot of helpful information, but he's done a lot of research behind essential oils. So he came out with this textbook that's really helpful when you're really digging into the therapeutic part of aromatherapy. And then I had the honor a few years back to take a class with Dr. Joy Bowles. I think that's how you pronounce her name. But she is so wonderful and so knowledgeable about the chemistry of aromatherapeutic oils, which is the name of her book. That's the second one that I definitely recommend. And this is a little bit less of a read if you don't want that textbook heavy one, but she really gets into a lot of the chemical structures of the different chemicals that we find in essential oils and what the benefit can be. So it's really pretty cool once you get into it a little bit, but that can help you maybe with how you make your own blends at home, or get into that a little bit. So a lot of times blends can just be aromatic based, where we're looking at perfumes or room sprays, things like that, just to make the air smell nice, make our body smell nice. And so when we look at the top, middle, and base notes, it kind of harmonizes all together. And it really is on that aroma smell, which oils smell good together. So hopefully after this class, you'll get a little bit of that, but we're trying to give you a little bit more knowledge on the science part of that too, so you can make some functional blends on your own as well, and really get that functional side of it, not only with your aroma side. All right. So actually, yeah, speaking of that, when I picked that up, I wanted to give a little excerpt of some top note oils. Oh, but before that, I definitely wanted to talk about how do we know what those chemicals are, and how do we see all of those hundreds of chemicals that are in those plant chemicals that are in each essential oil. So what we look at is this is kind of the main test that we do. So actually, Oracacia, when we work directly with farmers, we've worked with our farmers for many, many years, but we still test every single batch of essential oil to ensure purity and it's exactly what we expect it to be. There is unfortunately a lot of adulteration out on the market. We see a lot of companies using a hybrid species that might grow a little bit more abundantly, where you can get more essential oil from, but it's actually a very different plant. And we'll talk about an example of that. We also see, unfortunately, a lot of synthetics being added to essential oils. So you get an inferior plant or an essential oil, and then you add that synthetic to make it smell more like that real essential oil. But synthetics being added, you're going to have an increased chance of negative effects and adverse reactions. And you're not getting that true aromatherapy benefit from the true plant chemical and at that safer level that nature intended. So that's why it's so important to test your oils. And what we do, the gold standard, is a GCMS test. So what that is a gas chromatography. And our scientists take a little sample of the essential oil and they put it through this big machine that kind of looks like a tube. And it really makes the essential oil sort of evaporate. And what prints out is about an hour timeline of what happens when that essential oil evaporates, and it just takes all the single chemicals out one at a time. And so we can see on a chart what that looks like. And we actually are publishing all of our GCMS tests on oracacia.com. So the best way to do or to search on your own, I find, because sometimes it's a little bit hidden on our website, if you just go to just Google Oracacia GCMS, and then it'll take you right to that link. And then all of our GCMS profiles will pull up. But Betsy just put that into the chat so you can click right on that. And you can download any of those GCMS and see for yourself what that looks like. So that's pretty cool that we are doing that. So we're really excited about all the information we try to give to you. And it's totally free. So all of our classes every month are completely free. We actually, Betsy and I went for our aromatherapy certification. We've paid hundreds and thousands of dollars actually to get this knowledge that we're just giving to you for free. So it's pretty incredible. So thank you for being here again. But let me read a little bit on how that GCMS is it's like a thumbprint. So it's that printout. And what we see if it's about an hour timeline, in the first third of that hour is all of the chemicals that would be considered top note chemicals. Those come out right away in that GCMS test. And what those chemicals are grouped into is called monoterpenes. So that gets into a little bit of chemical science. So hopefully I'm not scaring anybody away right now. But those monoterpenes have a few of those chemical constituents that we find very frequently in our top note essential oils. So I'm reading from Dr. Joy Bull's book, and you can see these are all the chemical structures of the few or the most common monoterpenes that we find in our top note essential oils. So the first one is myrcene, which we don't use as much. So the essential oils that have a higher amount is bay oil and juniper. So if anybody uses bay and juniper, actually there's a decent amount. Both of those would maybe be considered more middle notes, but they have a top note or a decent amount of top note chemicals in them, and myrcene is one of them. The second one, and this is a very abundant or one that we see a lot, is alpha pinene. So pinene, you can hear what is that word in there? Pine. So one of my favorite essential oils is pine. So guess what? Pine has a lot of alpha pinene. So what else has a lot of? So cypress has about 45%, so almost half is alpha pinene. Pine, of course, is again 45%. Frankincense, surprisingly. So frankincense, we usually consider a base note because it still does have a lot of base note properties, but it actually contains almost 35% alpha pinene. So there is that top note constituent, which makes it really great for blending with top notes. So I love to blend frankincense with a top note like my lemon or something to bring that out, like a lime actually too, would really help. And then we also have juniper, berry, there's about a third in there. Rosemary has quite a bit in there, and eucalyptus even. And then the other one that we hear or we see a lot in our top note oils is limonene. So limonene is really a large portion of our citrus oils. That's what gives it that citrusy aroma that is very uplifting to our mood, and it just smells delicious. So grapefruit, 93% limonene, sweet orange, again, almost 90%. Our mandarin, which I have right here, 71%, lemon, 70%, lime, almost 60%, bergamot. Bergamot is actually kind of a unique citrus. So it comes from the bitter, it's one of the bitter, or it's a little bit bitter, not the bitter orange, but a bitter, more like lemony citrus fruit in Italy. And that actually has almost 40%. And even black pepper, surprisingly, again, a spice, has a little bit of that limonene. So again, essential oils can be very complex and has some top notes, some middle notes, and some base notes. But when we look at that overall GCMS, we can see how they're categorized. So if they have a ton of top notes and maybe a little bit of middle and base notes, then we would consider that a top note oil. If they have, more base note oils, again, but they still have, just like frankincense, they have quite a bit of that top note, but we still consider it a base note. So hopefully that helps to make sense a little bit more. And I'm not overwhelming you with chemicals, but I just find that really interesting. Betsy and I both love to kind of dig into the GCMS a little bit and see what the chemicals are behind that, because they actually, when we start studying those chemicals, those specific chemicals, that's how we know what these essential oils can do for us. So that limonene, that citrusy aroma that's found in most of our citrus oils, has been studied quite a bit on mood, especially. So it really helps to lift our mood. And we, of course, have our uplifting kit with our top 4 citruses. We have our lime, lemon, sweet orange, and grapefruit. And we call it that because of that limonene. So it really, really helps to just lift our moods in the morning time when we need that boost of sunshine a little bit, and can really just help us uplift ourselves. So that's what citruses are really do well with. It does have a lot of other properties. There's some of those other cleansing and purifying properties. So that's why they also make such great essential oils to add into our cleaners or to make cleaning products with. So that is some of the main properties of limonene specifically. And then we have our alpha pinene. And then we have, things like menthol a little bit. in especially like our peppermint. So if you go through some of the GCMS tests, which I definitely encourage you, you can even say, oh, so peppermint has like 60% menthol. Let me look up what menthol is. Now, some of you may be a little bit more familiar with that menthol because we talk about that a little bit more in everyday use, but that's one of the chemicals found in peppermint. And menthol is that you really smell that minty aroma with menthol. And it's also very cooling to the touch. So it's very cooling to our skin when we put peppermint on our skin. So it's very soothing and it can help us in the summertime to help cool us down. So it's also great for muscle care. So when we are using a lot of our mints, and again, we're making a body oil that's really going to help soothe. It can help with muscles, but also help cool our skin down for the summertime. So it's really great for that. But then we have our citruses to help energize us and invigorate us, as well as our mints too. All right. Let's see. Actually, I did want to look at a couple of them. So I had a couple pulled up just for examples for all of you. And let me look through is there any, all right. We're doing good in the chat. Betsy's answering all the questions. There it is, okay. So let's just give a couple examples of what you can find on oracacia.com with our GCMS test. So I pulled up, whoops, if my plant's in the way. So the first one is peppermint that I pulled up. So a couple other constituents that we didn't mention are cineol. So cineol, which is also known as eucalyptol, and that of course is found in eucalyptus, one of the main constituents in eucalyptus. And you have that really, it's considered that camphorous or very herbaceous aroma, but many people are very familiar with that aroma. So a little bit is found in peppermint, but the main portion of peppermint is actually menthol. So you can see it's 42% menthol. It even has a little bit of limonene, so a little bit of that citrus aroma is in there. And then a little bit of menthone too. So it's somewhat similar to menthol, but a little bit different chemical structure. So again, it's very cooling and soothing to the touch. So then we also have rosemary, which is also kind of considered a middle note because it's herbaceous, but it has quite a bit of top note properties. And the majority one is cineol, which is that eucalyptol. So surprisingly, rosemary, it smells quite a bit different than eucalyptus when you smell it. But if you're looking at that chemical structure, rosemary is also very good for our breath. So we know eucalyptus, everybody uses it during cold and flu season for allergies, all that, just to help clear. And I love putting eucalyptus in my bath or shower. It just helps to get that at-home spa experience. Even making natural chest rubs. But maybe eucalyptus isn't your favorite aroma and you absolutely love rosemary. Guess what? You're getting that chemical in there that does the same thing as eucalyptus. So that's kind of the cool thing. Once you start learning a little bit more about the chemical structures of essential oils, then you can kind of do your swaps based off of the aroma of the essential oil and your preference. So you can find like, maybe eucalyptus isn't your favorite, but you love rosemary. And you can see that there's similar constituents in there that you can use it in your blend and have a more preferred aroma blend for yourself. So you don't just have to follow the recipe that you're given. You can mix and match a little bit. But rosemary also has the alpha pinene and beta pinene in there too. So there is that pine-like aroma, which gives you a little bit of that refreshing tea or that tree, the tree aroma that's similar to pine. And then of course, eucalyptus, guess what? over 80% eucalyptol or cineol. So when you see that cineol on a GCMS, that is also considered eucalyptol, which you very much know that smell. All right. And lemon, of course, we have, let's see, yeah, we talked about that already, but it's almost 70% limonene, but it has a little bit of pinene in there as well, and terpenine. And do you notice that they're all ending in ene? So that is that monoterpene. Um, all of those top note oils end in that ENE sound. So that kind of helps with grouping that together a little bit too. Okay, well, I talked a lot about science and I could talk a lot about that, but I'm sure let's get into a little bit more about the blending part of aromas. So when we're using those top note oils, like our citruses and our mints, it's about 20 to 30% of the overall blend. So when we do top note, middle note, base note, you can definitely do a completely top note blend of whatever you're using, especially if you're looking for a super energizing, uplifting, maybe one that's great for breath work, for clearing, one that's great for muscle care, for soothing, especially for the mints. So it depends what you're looking for in terms of how you create a blend. But so this is just overall aroma wise, it's nice to have all three of those together. The reason for that too is the top note oils, they evaporate very quickly. So they're the ones that you'll notice first in a blend. So if you smell a perfume, you'll sometimes notice that citrusy or that minty part first, and then maybe you'll notice a little bit of that herbaceous part next, and then maybe at the end, you'll notice a little bit more of that earthiness or the woodsy aroma to a perfume blend. So it's sort of like when you go to a wine tasting and you get those notes on your tongue and you notice like the fruit first, and then you get a little bit of that woodsy aroma or woodsy taste, or maybe that oakiness of certain wines. So that's the same thing. That's more of like the flavonoids in our food and flavorings. But with the essential oil, it's very similar. So when we're smelling a blend together, we're getting those top, middle, and base notes coming out. And now you know what it looks like on a GCMS test. But so the top note oils, again, it's just the first third, 20 to 30%. We really focus on the heart of our oil, the middle notes, which you'll get next month with Betsy. But our top note ones are those refreshing ones, the uplifting ones, which I put in most all of my blends, especially citruses. We could all use some more uplifting, right? I mean, we can't get enough of that. So let me pull that back up just in case. I minimized everything. Okay. So when it comes to essential oils or the top note oils specifically, they do evaporate quickly because they disappear in that aroma blend. And so that's why with being mindful of how we store our citruses and our mints specifically, we have to be extra careful to store it in a cool, dark place away from heat, light, and air. So the heat, again, in the summertime, or even in your bathroom, it's maybe not the best place to store, especially our top note oils, because actually the majority of my citrus oils, they end up just evaporating before I even get a chance to use the whole entire bottle, unfortunately. So you have to be very careful just to keep it in a cool, dark place, maybe in a closet, or in a drawer. Even in a fridge is sometimes, if you have the more expensive oils, or a basement is great too. But that is a great thing to store our citruses and our mints, especially because they do just evaporate more than they actually go bad. um, but there is also a chance that they can oxidize. So, and when oxidization when oxidization happens, both in our carrier oils or essential oils, we do there is a chance of skin irritation. So it's always good to do a little bit of a nose test. If you've had some essential oils around for, a few years now, and give it a sniff. And if it starts to smell, our citruses, they start to smell a little bit less sweet. Um, and especially our oils, our carrier or skincare oils. You'll know with your cooking oils, if you've had a cooking oil that's sat around for a while and it starts to have that little bit of a rancid aroma, the same thing happens with the skincare oils. So definitely, I would refresh your oil at this time. So let's make our lemon mint body oil. Okay, so what you'll need for our mint lemon body oil, we are going to need a 4-ounce glass container. And again, glass helps to preserve it. Dark glass, again, keeping it away from heat, light, and air. That's part of the dark glass. That's why we keep everything in that dark bottle, that dark color. And glass helps to prevent any sort of chemical interaction with things like plastic or metal. Essential oil, those chemicals can actually change in structure. And also the citrus oils, especially because they make such great cleaners, they can really eat through plastic. So I definitely recommend keeping it in glass, especially dark glass. So we have these bottles available on oracacia.com. You can always order those. But this is our 4-ounce container. And then we are adding in 2 carrier oils tonight. So it's 2 skincare oils, grapeseed and apricot kernel. So grapeseed is a super light oil, which is great for summertime. It's not a heavy oil. It absorbs very quickly into the skin. So it's a perfect oil for summertime. And apricot kernel is also a very light oil, very quick absorption. It's similar to sweet almond oil, but for anyone that has a nut allergy and can't, you have to be more careful around nuts, apricot kernel is a great alternative for that because it's very similar in properties, but there's no allergy issues. So we're doing half and half of each because it's great to blend your skincare oils too. So you get more of those benefits to help nourish and protect your skin while you're putting your essential oils onto your body as well. So it's 2 ounces each of grapeseed and apricot kernel. I'm just going to eyeball it a little bit, but you can definitely be more careful with your measurements. So it's 2 ounces of grapeseed oil. We'll just squeeze that in. All right. And then it's 2 ounces of our apricot kernel. And it doesn't really matter with this recipe which one you do first. Oh, looks like I have a new bottle of apricot kernel. Gotta remember to take off that foil because again, we're keeping it away from light and air to help preserve it. But so we'll keep that closed once we're done using it. It's a good reminder. So this is just one of the ways you can use our top note oils in a blend. So this is pretty much exclusively a top note oil blend that we're making. So you can use it both topically, like I said, or in your cleaning products for diffusion to help get your mood boosted, really any time of day. Sweet orange is actually a nice relaxing one. Bergamot is nice and relaxing because bergamot has some floral constituents in there. When you look at the GCMS test and you stay tuned next month for our floral or middle notes, you'll learn more about lavender. But lavender has a couple constituents that we also see in bergamot, which is pretty cool. So bergamot is a citrus oil, but it has some of those relaxing properties that we love with lavender. Okay. And now I'm giving it a little swirl to just mix the two skincare oils together. And then we'll add our essential oils. So I'm adding 9 drops of my peppermint. So our peppermint has a little bit of that pinene. It has a little bit of that menthol. And it smells minty and refreshing and energizing. So it just really helps wake us up and get us energized. It's also going to be very cooling and soothing to the skin. So that's 9 drops of peppermint. And then we have our spearmint. So it's another mint with similar constituents to peppermint. When you look at that GCMS test, let me pull that up quickly just to reference. Let's see, where is my spearmint? There it is. So it has that eucalyptol a little bit. It has quite a bit of limonene, like our citrus. It has a little bit of menthol and menthone, but it actually has more of this constituent called carvone. So carvone is actually found a little bit more down the line, a little bit more into that middle range. Carvone is actually a little bit more of a relaxing aroma or chemical than our menthol. So spearmint is also a mint, but can be used more for relaxation. So it's nice to blend our mints together so that this blend isn't actually too energizing or relaxing. It kind of can do a little bit of both. So that's the nice thing. So we're gonna add, whoops, how many drops are we doing? So we're doing 8 drops of our spearmint. And 8, okay. All right, and then we have our lavandin. So lavandin is actually a hybrid lavender species. So our true lavender is called Lavandula angustifolia. This is Lavandula intermedia. It is a hybrid between Lavandula angustifolia and our spike lavender, latifolia. So spike lavender actually grows 6 feet tall, while our true lavender is about like a little bush, like 20 inches tall. And so we see, so lavandin actually, we're talking about our top notes. So why would we bring in a lavender species? So lavender or lavandin and spike lavender actually have some top note properties. And if you smell lavandin, you get that kind of eucalyptus like aroma a little bit. You'll smell that. And so let me pull up the lavandin GCMS test. So it has that cineol property in there. So cineol, like the eucalyptus. And then it also has camphor in it. So quite a bit of camphor. So it gives, again, that herbaceous camphorous aroma like eucalyptus or rosemary. So surprisingly, that is a very top note oil. It's very, it can be very stimulating and energizing. And unfortunately, we see a lot of adulteration and mislabeling out on the industry because lavandin and spike lavender grows more abundantly than the lavandin. You can get a lot more essential oil from it. And once we know what it does, the benefits is it can be used for energizing purposes. But if we're using what it says to be a lavender, so it technically still is a lavender species, but it's an energizing one. So if we're using it and it says it's lavender and we're trying to help, relax at night and calm us down, it actually might do the opposite. So if you've ever tried a different brand of essential oil and it smelled a little bit like eucalyptus slightly, a little camphorous or herbaceous, and then you kind of felt like it didn't really work, that actually might be a hybrid plant with those camphor and eucalyptal properties in there. So that's why it's really good to know that your essential oils are being tested, and really good to know yourself so you can see those little chemical constituents and say, nope, that's not what I want to use in this blend because I want a true relaxing one. Or yes, I do want the lavender because I want more of an energizing, minty, refreshing aroma. So I could go on and on. I know we have to keep this a little bit short, but we'll add our 19 drops of lavender in. So it's actually quite a bit of the blend. All right. And then we have our lemon. So I think I have that one up here because I love lemon. So again, 70% limonene. It's that citrusy, bright, happy aroma. I just love lemon in so many of my blends. And we're adding 12 drops of that. And that one comes out very quickly. All right, and so that is our lemon mint body oil. So this is great for, now that we know about all of the properties, it's a good energizing blend. So maybe after your morning time shower, you can use this as a body oil to just get your day started off right. You can keep it on your desk at work, and whenever you need a little bit of that energy, just to kind of keep you going through the day. Oh, that smells so good. It's so minty and citrusy and refreshing. You can add it onto your temples, behind your ears. Just give yourself a little bit of a spa-like experience wherever you are. So I would definitely keep that handy. You can, keep your, this is great for if you spend a lot of time on your feet, because it has that minty, soothing chemicals in there too. So you can rub that on your feet either at the end of the day or at the beginning of the day if you spend a lot of time on your feet. And it's very cooling again for the summertime. So to help keep you cool all day out in the summer in the heat, this is a perfect body oil for that. And you smell delicious. So, all right, let's see if there's any other questions, but I know I'm running a bit long tonight, but hopefully you learned lots and you're excited to start blending with a little bit more knowledge of what top notes are and those chemicals behind what that truly means. So hopefully this was an exciting class for you. And then join us next month. We have on August 17th, that's our part 2 series that is all about middle note properties. So we get to learn more about middle notes and what to do with them. We'll also have a nice recipe at the end for that. And then part 3 will be in September. So stay tuned for that. Keep an eye out on all the social media on Facebook. We do twice monthly Facebook Lives too, and talk about some fun things that we have going on. And you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. I definitely recommend that because we have all of our previous classes on there. So if this is your first class and you're like, this is awesome, I want to learn so much more, we have a ton of education on YouTube. So go like and subscribe to Acacia on YouTube and take a look at all the videos that we have. And that's it. So stay tuned for the next class. I hope you enjoyed this class and you're excited to dig into more of those top notes and start playing around with that. So thank you for joining tonight and take care.